Hi everyone, I'm dying to talk about Squid Game Season 2. Now, I loved Squid Game Season 1. This is a rare moment where a show is massively popular, like unbelievably popular, and simultaneously has a lot of artistic merit, is genuinely like a well done, excellently done show. It reminds me of Parasite. Parasite won Best Picture, but simultaneously, it appealed to pretty much everyone. Everyone kind of liked it. You know what I mean? And Squid Game Season 1, minus like a few caveats that I had, was pretty flawless. Especially looking back on it now with Season 2. I really liked that first season. But unlike a lot of people, I actually had hope for Season 2. A lot of people were saying it wasn't necessary, don't ruin a perfect thing. And I was like, you know what? I think there is more to this world. I would like to know maybe how the games are run, how they get away with it. Now, to an extent, I agreed with the kind of concern of there is something to be said about how scary it is, the idea that Squid Games operate without us understanding how. The level of mystery adds a sort of horror to the show. I agree. But at the same time, I thought if they do it well, a second season could be fascinating. And my lord, are there some good things in this second season? Now, I did go on a complete journey with this season. I went from absolutely loving it to being really concerned for a while in that middle chunk and then really loving it again towards the end. I feel like you can break up this season to the first two episodes, the middle 3 or 4 episodes, and then that incredible finale. So we're going to get into everything I liked, everything I thought maybe could have been better, what I'm looking forward to seeing in the future, breaking down, again, the differences in quality, both good and bad, between Season 1 and Season 2, and some character analysis and interpretation. So let's just do it. First off, the first 2 episodes genuinely feel like an incredible South Korean revenge film. It is giving Old Boy. I absolutely loved the first 2 episodes. I could have watched an entire miniseries about the recruiter, all right? And I know that's not like a hot take. I know a lot of people are saying that, but my lord, did I love how kind of cold and icy and slow-paced the first 2 episodes were. It went from a show that has inspired Mr. Beast-like ripoffs to countless YouTube video imitations and gone, we're not going to give you what you came for. We're not going to give you games from the jump. We're going to give you slow, methodical South Korean revenge storytelling. It was excellent. Again, it was reminding me of Old Boy. If you haven't seen Old Boy, very similar, where someone is held in a situation they don't want to be in when they're out back in the real world. It's like this, world-shattering sort of experience. And I love that Gi-han is this hardened guy. I've seen a few people complain that he feels like a different character. I feel like that's entirely the point. And I love seeing this guy that was kind of like full of joy and kind of like this manipulative, snaky kind of letdown in the first season, being this hardened, calculated, stoic guy. It's really, really fascinating to see the journey he's gone on. He's basically John Wick as well. He's got like this arsenal, and he's dedicated his whole life to finding out how the Squid Game works, finding this recruiter. And I just loved how patient the intro to this season was. It wasn't giving you what you wanted. It was giving you what you needed, what you didn't know you needed. And this exploration of the recruiter was just excellent. It's interesting with the recruiter because at first it feels like he's doing jobs for this Squid Game enterprise company thing, right? But then it seems like he almost takes joy in putting people in these situations. There's this whole homeless subplot that I'm sure you remember because it's one of the highlights of the season, where he makes them pick between a lottery ticket and food, and there is no sort of like entry to the game outcome at the end of this. Like, it isn't for the games. He seems to just do this for fun in this like sick, perverse way. And we do get some backstory and lore to his character, this idea that he was once like Gi-han and now he's the recruiter. So you can assume he's gone through some of the games himself, or being like a pink guy and come out of the world like this. Now, I will say I kind of disagree with a lot of people's take. I do get what this test is trying to show, the fact that these homeless people will choose something like the lottery, which is not guaranteed, rather than the bread that is guaranteed, thus proving this like philosophical point that the show is trying to make about how we are always swayed by money, even when it's a dumb move. I'm going to be real. Like, I know this might be obtuse and missing the overall metaphorical point, The lottery ticket is kind of the good choice. Like, these homeless people aren't emaciated to the point where they are on death's door and literally like about to starve to death. So the lottery ticket is kind of the sensible choice to make, even if you aren't guaranteed a win. Yes, it is relentlessly cruel for the recruiter to pour the bread out on the floor and stamp on it, but I've seen so many comments being like, oh, these homeless people are dumb for doing this, and it shows how we're all just like silly slaves to money. And I'm like, it was kind of the better call to make. Like, I feel like the recruiter, I get the point he's going for, but I think he's thinking a little too deep into it personally. But I absolutely love this section. And then, oh my lord, the montage, the sequence of Gihan paying these gang members to find the recruiter. They finally find him. And it's this old shit moment where he makes them play Russian roulette. Genuinely game-changing TV. Just so well done. The paper, scissors, rock scene has so much tension. It's expertly well handled. I loved how that whole sequence was done. Genuinely excellent, well shot, incredibly well performed. And I love the ending as well, when they then play Russian roulette, Gihan and the recruiter. And at a certain point, it is guaranteed by the law of odds that the recruiter will have to shoot himself, right? There is one round left and the bullet has not been fired. And so it's like, he knows he's going into this. He knows he's doing this. And I appreciate the fact that he doesn't shoot Gihan. He is a man of principles, right? He puts people in these games. He will also play the game honestly. And I love that. But I also like that earlier in the episode, when he was forcing the two people that Gihan hired to play Russian roulette, he also spins it and shoots it against his head, with full confidence that it's not going to shoot him. And there's no way he could have known this, right? There is a 1 in 6 chance that he could have shot himself. But it reminds me, if you've seen Euphoria, there is a scene where Nate Jacobs needs something, right? The villain of the show needs something from a character and plays Russian roulette until the girl gives him what he wants, right? Kind of spooking her out that, like, if you don't give me this, I will inevitably shoot myself, right? And I always found that so intimidating and confronting and cold, because that is a character that has been so manipulative and smart and cunning that, like, of course, when everything goes right for him up until that point, he thinks that God is almost on his side. And I love when in these Russian roulette scenes, when the evil character who has pulled off countless evil acts flawlessly has this feeling of like, well, God is obviously going to let me keep doing this, so I'm not even phased by playing Russian roulette. Absolutely love that stuff. Now, the reason I am glazing the first 2 episodes is because I really appreciate this like interesting revenge plot they were setting up. You know, Gihan was going to go into the games and bring them down from the inside. He had this crew assembled to come find him. He had the chip in the tooth. Perfectly set up revenge story. Then we get to the games, and I think the pacing absolutely nosedives for a while. I don't know if anyone else found this, but I think initially I enjoyed the revelation, right? I love the revelation that he's been put into the games. He feels good about it because he knows there's a chip in his tooth and they're coming to get him. And then it turns out the chip has been taken out and he realizes that when it's too late. Awesome moment. Then this is where the problems start cropping up though. I love that we're back in red light, green light. I was not sitting there like, oh, we're doing this again. Enjoyed the sequence, and I actually found it initially much darker. You know, when Gihan is trying to convince everyone, like, hey, you are going to die. Listen to me so this isn't a surprise. Do not move. Like, giving them all the pointers to get through this, and they're just too arrogant and ignorant and money-driven in that moment to actually listen to him and hear him out, right? And then it goes wrong. And I think even though inevitably we're all sitting there as an audience kind of waiting for it to go wrong, we are here. There is some sick entertainment that I think we have to acknowledge we all get out of watching the actual Squid Games. People enjoy watching these games. And I think at this point, the show is playing with that, right? It knows that we are kind of waiting for the bloodbath to start, and it is making us kind of feel bad for that. It's humanizing these people, and through Gihan's eyes, we are sort of sitting there rooting for these people to make it out, even though part of us still wants to see it go wrong. Really, really fascinating stuff. And as a result, this sequence I found felt a lot darker than that first sequence in the build-up. You know, we have seen how this goes before. We are watching him trying to get them out of it. And then it goes wrong. I like the bee sting. I like Thanos pushing the people over. Perfect. Awesome. The moment where it loses me is the trap remix of Fly Me to the Moon. I'm just going to say it. I don't think this trope of taking happy song over really dark material is as fresh and exciting as it used to be. And I also think when this was done in the first season, when they played Fly Me to the Moon in season one, I liked it a lot better because it was from the game runner's perspective. Is that his name? One sec. Sorry, the front man. It was from the front man's perspective. He was watching the games from his like ivory tower and he started playing Fly Me to the Moon, watching the chaos unfold. And then we see that. We see all these people horrified and scared, but we're also hearing the sick music that the frontman has paired to it, and it works flawlessly. I think the issue here is it's not kind of in universe. The frontman isn't playing the music. Squid Game just thought it'd be kind of like cool and vibey to play a trap remix of Fly Me to the Moon. It completely took me out of the sequence, unfortunately, and I don't think it hit the same uncanny, unsettling vibe that the first season got, but also I don't think I should be actively enjoying this and kind of vibing, you know? So it kind of wasn't working on either front. It wasn't working as this dark, weird, Quentin Tarantino type sort of violence, but it also wasn't working in this like sick irony personally. So that was the first moment where it slightly stumbled for me. After that, I think the pacing falls out a bit. We start learning about new characters. And I'm already someone who is like notoriously bad with names. The amount of shows I watch, it is really hard to keep track. So oftentimes I refer to them as, oh, the rapper, oh, the mother and son. You know, like I'm not great at it, but my Lord, the amount of characters we are bombarded with, I think it's too much. All right, I'm just going to say it. In the first season, even in that first episode, by the time you get to Red Light, Green Light, you had a really good idea of who these people were. Yes, it felt like they had plot armor. The fact that the camera was focusing on them made you think they were going to make it through, but you had a really good idea of all these major players, what they stood for, what they kind of represented. I found by the second or third game, I was still sitting there with a lot of characters being like, these emotional moments would be working if I cared more, if I knew more about them. But I felt like the character development for a lot of the new side characters was spread way too thin. You have Thanos and his goons. You have the Crypto Bro, who I thought was excellent. Can I just say, I think the Crypto Bro and his pregnant kind of one night stand, will they, won't they girlfriend, that should have been like a core chunk of the side character development. Can you imagine how much tension could have been drawn from that? And I just think they slightly missed the mark by focusing on a lot of other characters that ultimately didn't add to much personally. I would cut Thanos and his homies entirely. Now, to be fair, if they pay off more in season 3, I will redact that. And I don't know about you guys, I did not get any tension or emotional connection from the son and mother. And I know this is probably the point, but the son was so poorly conveyed to us as someone we should have sympathy for. I did not care about him. And I also found the mum wasn't particularly well written enough to sort of make me care about him by extension. Like maybe I don't like the son and don't respect the son, but I worry about him due to what he means to the mother. But I thought both of them as a duo weren't particularly likable, interesting. I didn't care about them. And I don't mind having unlikable characters. I was really interested where Thanos was going to go as a character, and he was obviously really unlikable. But I think for a lot of these side characters, they just did not give them enough to do. I think the reason it's different with the mother and the son is it's clear that the show wants us to really resonate with it by the way the overbearing music plays whenever they have a moment. It's meant to be earnest and tragic and sweet, but I just found their dynamic not working with me. You know, I didn't have much empathy or emotional connection to that, and I don't think it was going for us wanting to hate either one of them, because again, the music is very almost Disney-esque. That's another thing. I thought the music this season, I've seen some people say it was really good. I thought it was rather overbearing and unsubtle and kind of frustrating. I liked all the songs that returned from the first season, but the general score felt really kind of emotionally manipulative and overbearing for me at times. You know, there was that girl that got thrown out in the Mingle game, I think it was, where they had to like jump into the room. There was that girl that got thrown out, and that should have been a really devastating moment. but I didn't know really anything about her. On top of that, there was also that moment in the Mingle game where one guy, was it Mingle? I think one guy put the rock, paper, scissors up and kind of cut her out of the game when she wasn't even playing, right? And that was another moment where I was like, I just don't know enough about these two to really connect with these moments. They're like expertly well thought out stories and emotional beats and moments, and they should be really devastating. But unfortunately, it's just like we didn't get enough time with them. And I do hope we get more time with the crypto bro and his pregnant girlfriend. I feel like we're going to have to, right? Because that, I feel like, just could be mined for so much drama, despite me not caring enough about the girl that got thrown out of the room during the Mingle game. I thought the kind of like emotional catharsis you got in that moment where he jumped in the room was excellent. But unfortunately, I did think once we got to the games, the pacing was kind of all over the shop. There were characters I wanted more from, and there were characters I definitely wanted less from. And this was like a consistent trend. I also thought that the messaging was starting to get a bit sledgehammery, and I don't know what the workaround here is, right? So the new kind of structure of this show, structure of these games in this season is that they actually get the option to vote at the end of every game to leave or to stay. Where this was only presented once in the first season, now they get to do it after every single game, split the prize money as well. They don't go home empty-handed. So it seems like a slightly friendlier version, except this obviously leads to infighting. However, the issue is I found these sequences of voting incredibly tedious. I don't know what the workaround here is, because you do need to show it every time, but they went on for so long. Some of them went on longer than the actual games, and every single time pretty much it was always down to like 1 or 2 votes by the end. You know how these things go, right? Like it's like 49, 50, 50, 51, you know what I mean? Like they're always neck and neck. And as a result, watching them 3 times was just a bit like, can we get onto it? Can we at least get to the kind of like last couple votes? Hi guys, just while I've got you, I do memberships for this channel. I would love if you could consider getting one. It really helps out the channel and helps me grow. What's included in the membership is once a week, I am doing a sort of book club where I'm talking about a TV show. Currently, I'm covering Tell Me Lies season 1. I'm covering an episode a week. After that, I'll let members vote on which show I cover next. On top of that, every 3 to 4 weeks, I also do a quick podcast talk about everything I've seen and watched that I don't have time to do full videos on. So you basically get my thoughts on everything I've seen and watched. This is all for a small cost, and it really helps the channel. If this sounds interesting to you at all, please consider getting a membership. Thank you so much, and back to the videos. Now, I do love the revelation. I absolutely love the revelation. This season was set up as this dark South Korean revenge story. I love the revelation of player 001, the front runner being in the games. I have seen an abysmal take online. The idea that this would have been better as a twist if we did not know who 001, the front runner, was from season 1, if we didn't know that was him. Fucking, what are you talking about? First off, they already did that in season 1 with the old guy. And no, I disagree, all right? This is a really edgy, confronting revenge story with Gihan. And watching him try and rally the troops and build up this like opposing force that is going to take down the Squid Games, knowing the whole time as an audience, the bomb under the table, knowing that 001 is inevitably going to fuck them over and ruin it. And then every single moment he doesn't do that, even though you know it's coming, is a masterclass in tension. And it completely saves the season for me in these poorly paced, weirdly structured game sequence moments. The tension of the front runner is so well done. And it peaks in the last episode too. They draw it out so much. And the expertly well-handled, well-done thing here is the fact that the whole time as an audience member, he's pulling his punches. You're sitting there going, why did he let them live here? Why is he letting Gihan and his team form this uprising? Why is he letting them get this close to taking down the Squid Game? And in the last moments of the season, it's confirmed to us that this is just a sick, sick game. Yeah, like all Squid Games that the front runner is playing. He wanted Gihan to be able to play the hero and to feel like he was actually getting close to an uprising, just to take it all away from him. Just to be like, you should have taken the money. You should have got on the plane or the train with your daughter at the end of season 1. Expertly well done, and completely redeems these slower moments, because what I will say is, even though there were so many characters that I wasn't connecting with, I thought needed to be cut. Truthfully, I would have cut the mother and the son. What the fuck was with the spiritual lady? Cut her. So many dialogues and monologues with characters that I wish went to the crypto guy and his girlfriend, or the girl that got locked out of the room and tragically died. Like, I wanted to be crying the way I was in the marble sequence. However, what I will say is, my lord, was everything coming together in that last episode where the uprising actually starts. I think the core characters we got paired with Gi-hun, the team that assembled, was a cast of characters that didn't feel contrived. It wasn't just all our main characters. Every single one had a box ticked. No, there was some like kind of NPC randoms as well, but we knew enough about them to care a bit. I thought it was just excellently well done. I also appreciated that there was the trans character who absolutely crushed it, but there was also that ex-military guy, I think the one that was always doing the salutes, who has a complete PTSD meltdown and can't perform in the moment. And I wasn't mad at him. I thought this was a tragically well done sequence, a well done scene, really harrowing, really effective. You're rooting for him to get back in the game and help them, but it just feels really tragic and also really well earned. Like, I appreciate the fact that throughout the whole season, he's really proud of his military service. People mock him, and typically in a story like this, you would expect that after people mocking him all season, he rises to the occasion and saves the day. But it's actually the trans woman they've been bullying the whole time crushes it and actually has to kind of fail at the hands of the guy that typically in these stories you would expect, again, to save the day. Really well done. Really good stuff. And again, I love the tension. The whole time you're sitting there waiting for 001 to wipe out the team. And he literally leaves it to the absolute last minute he can, just for the theatricality of it. And on one end, you could say this is contrived, this is only for the show. But no, this feels very in line with the type of people that would make a competition reveling in people torturing themselves for money. Now, one thing I will say is this is going to be the hottest take of the video, I kind of miss the idea that there were like these American people watching the Squid Games. All right, now, yes, I hated how they were done in the first season. The dialogue was awful. The scenes were cringy. It was the worst part of season 1 next to a few things, which I might talk about later. But it was one of the worst things about season 1. I don't want them back the way they were done in season 1, but I really liked the idea that people were watching. And I know maybe we're meant to infer it and be like, oh, we're the ones watching. Wow. But like, I actually really did like the idea that like the whole time people were watching. And I would have loved seeing kind of like an audience that was paying to watch the Squid Games freaking out when this uprising starts, being like, oh my God, like this has all gone wrong. Almost like complaining about it when like the reception drops out, when like some, alcoholic dad is watching the footy game. You know what I mean? I kind of would have loved that. But unfortunately, we didn't get that. I'm wondering if that was cut because like everyone hated how they were done in the first season. Now, I will also say I enjoyed the journey of the cop character from season 1. I liked that he fell off the cliff and was saved by a captain. I enjoyed the twist that the captain was evil. And what I will say here is I think very intentionally, the cop story is very clearly paralleling Gi-hun's story. All right? Both of them are given a semblance of hope. All right? We all thought that the cop was dead after he got shot and fell off the cliff. The cop definitely thought so. And he saved. And it turns out he saved almost clearly by someone who works for Squid Game, right? And he wasn't saved at all. Clearly that was something where it was like, we're going to like pick him up and toy with him and fuck with him. The same way Gi-hun is being fucked with by the front man, right? So the front man is fucking with his own brother and also fucking with Gi-hun in this same cruel way of, I'm going to give you an idea of hope just to pull it away from you at the last minute. Just awesome, awesome stuff. I really liked how 001 was handled. I've also seen this complaint online that like our main character Gi-hun should have figured out it was 001 based off the fact that he had 001 as his number. I'm sorry. Like, I think the 001 was a cute thing for us as an audience to be like, whoa. But like, no. all right? He's obviously not sitting there being like, they would be that stupid to give a tell that obvious. I think it's part of the cruel joke that the front runner is playing. I think it's part of the cruel joke that the front runner is playing, like it was right under your eyes. But realistically, there's no reason, like Gihan should have his guards up for literally everyone around him after the first season, but there's no reason he should go, oh, 001. That's always the plan. Like, no, because it's such a stupid idea. And that's why it works as like a really cruel, sick joke. But it doesn't work as like an actual giveaway that we should be mad at Gihan over. Also, addressing another criticism of season 1, I've seen a lot of people complain about the fact that Gihan did not get on the plane, did not get on the train to see his daughter. These people completely miss the point of the show. I'm just going to say it. Like, absolutely miss the point of the show. First off, like he was very clearly a gambling addict, so he's always going to have that part in him where it's like, no, I'm going to take the risk, not to get money, but to like do something bigger, you know? He's always going to take that option. It made perfect sense to me, given the DNA of the show. And I also think it's a noble pursuit, like him actually wanting to take down the game, especially when we see what he's like in season 2. He's dedicated 3 years to this. He's barely spending any of his money. He is trying to take this shit down. And I also like the idea that he is like desperate to save these people. Now, what I will say is I do think the messaging got a little unsubtle, and I know this wasn't the most subtle show to begin with, but as I was talking about before with those like 3 sections where they're doing the votes getting a little tedious, there was also this consistent dialogue, I think from that character, I forget his name, but the one that was constantly giving Gihan shit, being like, you threw us off the game, we have no respect for you. Like he was constantly yelling at him. There was a sequence where I just felt like it was beating me over the head. It was like, I get it, all right? People are going to choose money even when they're facing death, even when it's not the smart thing. And you would just have these like countless conversations and arguments and scenes of them yelling and almost like talking to the audience about their rationale. And it's like, I know that these characters are obviously blinded by money. This is a realistic situation of what they would be saying. But it just felt like the dialogue was very clearly trying to communicate the themes to me. And personally, I just felt a little handheld at times. I was like, I actually understand. Like, I get it. We've been through this in the first season. And it was just that middle chunk I was really struggling with. Same with Gihan, right? Because for a while, up until the uprising, the very last episode, I was kind of underwhelmed by his arc. I thought the first 2 episodes were really, really interesting with the revenge plot. And then I was really excited when his tooth got taken out. But then for like a substantial chunk, basically all the game sequences, we were kind of just back at square one, it felt, for a while. It didn't feel like there was much advantage of him being in that first set of games. People weren't really listening to him, but he also wasn't actively driving anymore. He kind of gave up a bit too early for my liking and just sort of like fucked about for a bit and kind of witnessed these things. And I know it's a hard position for him to be in when people aren't listening, but I did feel like for a while, as a result with what they were doing with Gihan, it did feel like a bit rinse and repeat of season 1. But my lord, the ending was so strong and so solid that it's kind of made me cheer up on the whole season. Up until the ending, I was actually going to say, oh, it started great, and then once we got into the games, it got really disappointing because the pacing did get really rough, and I felt like it was repetitive from season 1, but the ending was just so solid, and I appreciate the fact that they focused on actual ammunition, you know, realistic bullet counts. I thought the violence was well done. I will say, I don't think the game sequences were shot as well. I thought the color grading was not nearly as good as season 1. Go back and watch Red Light, Green Light from season 1. The blood effects were a lot stronger. It was a lot more visceral. There was just like a visual language, like a visual DNA to that first season that technically was here in the second season, but just felt a little neutered. And I've been noticing that in a lot of Netflix shows. They're just starting to look a bit rough, desaturated. I don't know if it's like a technical specification they want, so it looks kind of universally the same over all devices or something, but I miss the vibrancy of the first season. And I also thought the way the sequences were shot were not as effective, and combining that with a bunch of characters I wish I cared more about made the mingle scene rather underwhelming for me. I thought it was really visually messy, not super exciting, could have been shot a lot better in my opinion, and I wish I knew more about the characters. And I did quite like was it the pentathlon, the series of 5-6 games. But again, that ended in a montage similar to the Fly Me to the Moon montage from Red Light, Green Light in this season, that I felt tonally was a bit confused and kind of ruined the tension. I found that a lot. In each game, minus Mingle, I felt like the tension was kind of abruptly cut and rushed, and found these sequences a bit disappointing in comparison to the first season. And you could make the argument that this is because we know the uprising is coming. We know we're not getting to the end of Squid Game, but I would kind of appreciate in season 3 if the players that are left get into like a continuation of the Squid Game started here, while we also have the other characters that are in the uprising dealing with the fallout from that. So you have kind of 2 stories going on, get the best of both worlds. You get what I mean? It's not that I watch the show for the games, but I think if you're going to do the games, do them well. And I have hope in season 3 that if they do some, they will be done well. But regardless, I really confused by the journey I went on, because I loved the opening, lost me in the middle like quite a fair bit with a lot of the character work and pacing issues and clunky visual design. But those last 2 episodes, even with the fork fight in the bathroom, excellent. Excellent stuff. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing. Also, I did mention earlier in the video about memberships. Just letting you know, I'm about to finish Tell Me Lies, the last episode this week. So there is no better time to get a membership, because I will be doing a full year, every movie and show reviewed, 2 different videos. And on top of that, I will also be open to requests on what show to cover weekly or any movie you want me to cover weekly. So whichever gets the most votes, I will be covering that for my membership videos. So that will all be coming very soon. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a lovely day.